Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. This is episode 102. I'm Dan John. Before I begin today with the questions, I had an interesting thing happen. I was flying home from Washington, D.C. As many of you know, I spend a lot of time in my nation's capital working with various teams. I travel to the West Coast and East Coast and Okinawa and, Hawaii and a lot of cool places. On the way back, I'd been upgraded to first class. I know, poor me. And I was talking to this guy. We're talking about business, and he asked what I do. The old, I always feel like it's the Jeff Hemingway 3 questions. What's your name? What do you do for a living? And what's your favorite breakfast cereal? Conversations on planes are easily a little light. And I told him, and he was interested. And so I pulled out my computer and I showed him the Dan John University workout generator. And he said a really interesting thing. He said that, he goes, aren't you worried that like people only join for a week or just utilize the free membership, download the workout download their workout and then never come back as a client again? And I thought like 1,000 things at once. 2 is that's fine because obviously Dan John University isn't for everybody, and we're going to not always have people there. That's just the bottom line. I've had, people I respect a lot look at it and go, hey, that's good. I like it a lot. But, I train and then they fill in the blank, and so it doesn't fit with what our needs are. Sometimes I feel like I'm in one of those 1970s card games I used to play with my brothers, We had this one game called the California Draw Poker with 3s and 9s wild or something like that. I think it was called baseball. It was like, when you're playing a game like, one-eyed jacks are wild and, people just keep coming up with newer and newer, subcategories that we just can't keep up with. The most common question I joke about here is, Dan, I'm a Brazilian, wrestler who wants to do triathlons, climb Mount Kilimanjaro. But my biggest concern is about my 5-year-old son who wants to be a swimmer. But, okay. First, the generator is not for everybody. And that's just the bottom line. But the second thing is, I think, and it's interesting because what he didn't know, but it's so radically apparent to me, is that his sentence really is the problem in the fitness industry in America. For some reason, he thought that when you get the workout, you're done. I'm going to give, Dan, if you just give me the perfect workout and the perfect diet, I would do it. Well, here you go. Ready? I want you to fast every day. And then when after you exercise with the perfect workout, I want you to eat protein and 10 different kinds of vegetables and drink water. Go on to a short fast again. Do another perfect workout. And then go for a long walk, a 2-hour walk, and then a protein source and 10 different vegetables. I want you to sleep 9 or 10 hours a night. I want you to meditate for at least an hour every day and have a massage. There you go. Call me about that. But what the workout generator is it's a living thing. He had that thought that you would download the workout. I'm going to do military press, 3 sets of 8. Then I'm going to do TRX row, 3 sets of 8. And I'm going to do that the rest of my life. And well, what the workout generator does, not only is it by the system change the workouts a little bit, but the thing that I've always liked best is, well, I like best that we start with equipment, but that's for another time, another discussion. But inside where it says push, because of the equipment I might have 20, 30, 40 variations. So that there are days, in fact, last week was a good example. I'm trying to increase, I'm adding front squats into my program for a couple of months. And so 3 days a week, I'm front squatting with chains. And on the other 2 days a week, I'm goblet squatting. And of course, the other day I said to myself, oh, I'm not overhead squatting. Well, it's where I said that because there's front squat, there's overhead squat, there's goblet squat in a week. And the overhead squat was just to practice, so I kept the mobility up for it. So I think one of the things that this person missed, and it's very common, is that Yes, I can give you a template for a perfect workout. I mean, you can see how angry my dog is right now with this. And I give you this template for the perfect workout. But the perfect workout is only perfect for about another week or two before you need some change. Now, it can be as simple as going from 3 sets to 8 to 3 sets to 10. Woo, big change. But it could also be going from standing barbell press to half kneeling kettlebell press. Dan, which one's better? They both are wonderful. They both have great value. And the two are very complementary, as that stretch you get in the hip flexor, the half kneeling stretch, the half kneeling press, the stretch you get from the half kneeling carries over to the military press quite nicely. And of course, the load on military press is going to help you appreciate the lighter load on the kettlebell work. So before I even get going today, I want you to think about what I said there. I think the workout generator is amazing. I mean, it's flat out amazing. And there's a bunch of other programs we have on the site, the bus bench programs, like the easy strength programs, mass made simple and all that, lean made simple. And they're all great. But what you have to understand is that the workout generator and all these other programs, you are constantly adapting and accommodating what's going on. And I think it's really important that what might be true for you in July or August might not be true for you in January and February, especially in our case here with the weather changes that we deal with here in Utah. I want you to start thinking about workouts very much like you think about your diet. Is that, yeah, I could give you I'm sure there is a perfect food out there. Somebody once told me that Purina monkey chow was a perfect food for humans. And then someone then followed up and told me, but the problem was that they had it turned the monkeys diabetic because there was an issue with the food. So if you are eating Purina monkey chow for my recommendation, please look that. Be sure you keep an eye on your diabetes. But I'm sure we could come up with a Purina human chow that would be a perfect food. And I know that if you just ate Purina human food, you would probably discover quite quickly, some great changes in your body composition, and you would be bored stiff. And we basically have to incarcerate you at some way to make sure that's all you ate. Workouts and diet are things that flow and change. And so, yeah, you can copy and paste somebody else's workout generator workout or somebody else's workout online. It doesn't have to be my workout. But you'll find very quickly is that life has a rhythm to it. Life has a tempo to it. Life has seasons to it. And you have to respect that. I enjoyed my flight. I watched several movies, including Bird of Prey, and I'm glad I didn't pay for that one. All right, let's get started with our questions this week. We have a question from Michael, and it actually ties into what I've been talking about. Michael says, I have been thinking about the term dialectical recently, referring to how two seemingly opposing ideas can both be true. Oscar Wilde spoke on this. Anybody who's ever done theology, one of the first things you learn is either or is one of the lowest level of thinking. I'm sure that's true in every field. What instances of this have you dealt with in training, and how do you reconcile the two seemingly contradictory stances? For example, I recently heard a podcast where you mentioned the balance between the positive good form versus the inefficiency of those who are too strict in seeking perfect form. Oh, well, this is why I always recommend the book by Marty Gallagher called Purposeful Primitive. And of course, Marty is not only a phenomenal strength coach and a wonderful power lifter himself, Olympic lifter, and just a great person. I love Marty. In his book, Purposeful Primitive, he actually discusses this in deep detail. For example, he recommends in the book that you follow the recommendation some of the bodybuilder guys who recommend 6 meals a day. Okay. But here's the funny thing. He says, do that for a month and then do a month of that warrior diet-y kind of fasting where you eat 1 meal a day, one very extended meal a day. And do that for a month. So wait a sec, which one's right? Well, the answer is both are right. Both have great value to being a human. That's why I'm such a big fan of the traditional coaching methods that many of these modern coaches have gotten away from, where we did have a period for what we used to call it accumulation, where you would play different sports and different games and have some laughs and get out there and do some things. So you've got your throwers out there playing volleyball. You got your swimmers playing frisbee. Because you accumulate. Well, is it going to help them in the pool? Well, maybe it won't help them swim faster. It will keep their head straight. Uh, Especially in swimming, as I understand it, people get the gold medal and they never go back to the pool for the rest of their life. That's it. Thank you. Bye bye. In my world of weightlifting, there's no question that, like, well, Marty has this idea where you lift one day a week. On Sunday, let's see, I think it's squat, bench press, deadlift, and you make your numbers. This week is 8, next week are 5s, the week after are 3s. And the other days of the week, all you do is walk and makes you eat quality food. Does one day a week weightlifting work? Yeah, for Marty's people it does. I recommend for a lot of people lifting with the easy strength protocols, you do the same lifts 5, 6, 7 days a week. And you do that, for a couple of weeks. Well, after that, it's a real good idea to go to one lift a day, which is, instead of doing snatches 5, 6, 7 days a week, you snatch one day a week. And that's all you do that workout. It's called one lift a day. And no, I have no issue with this kind of thinking. In fact, I think I encourage it. I like the rub between opposing good ideas. That's the problem I have politically in the United States. I'm one of those strange people. There are very few of us anymore. We're called moderates. We actually think there's values to both sides of the discussion. And yet when I hear the lunatics on TV talking, and it's gotten crazy, I sometimes feel like neither of those two people represent what I believe. Any divisive topic, that 1% lunatic fringe always dominates because they make much better. I'd love to. It's called the fox and the hedgehog, and it's worth leading. It's very simply, the fox has many tricks. The hedgehog has one, and there's been a lot of hedgehogs in our industry. You could say Arthur Jones with his Nautilus. Very quickly, when he first started his ideas on high intensity, he was a barbell guy and then realized that, as we all know, that writing articles doesn't make a lot of money, but selling machines does. And so they answered all questions. You're a sprinter, one set to failure. You're a thrower, one set to failure. You're a football player, one set to failure. And boy, that stuff works for about 6 weeks, and it's an absolute failure. Some of our CrossFit brothers and sisters usually say the workout that shall not be named. I forgot to say trademark. Oh my God. I want to be an 800-meter runner, CrossFit. Whatever it is, CrossFit. I was just with a guy this weekend he was a very good CrossFitter, and the only problem he has now is the number of surgeries he had to get through to undo all the damage. I know sometimes in my career I've done the same thing. Olympic lifting was the answer to all questions. By the way, I was right back when I first started coaching. Olympic lifting for fat loss works. It does. I'm very proud of that. I just kept throwing Olympic lifting as the answer to everything. So, yeah, I have no issue with listening to either or arguments. But most of us who take even half a moment to think about it realize quickly that the answer is going to be more of the both and. Both sides are right and both sides are wrong. And it's the job of the big kids to deal with that. Good question, Michael. Thank you. Dialectics. Brett. Okay, my son is 9 years old. Here we go. And just completed his first outdoor track season. He chose to focus on running the 1500 and improved steadily through the season and really loves the sport. Yeah, good. And that's good to hear. I do worry about burnout already, but let's continue. My wife was an elite cross-country runner in college, and it looks like our club also wants to start competing in cross-country this year, so he wants to give that a try too. And I got to tell you, and I've said this many times, I think one of the best things you can do academically is play chess in high school and run cross country. The number of professors I had in college who were collegiate cross country runners was extremely high. And what I thought was fascinating is that many of my professors ran cross country for Utah State, and their coach was Ralph Mon, my coach, which I kind of thought was kind of interesting. However, he also wants to do indoor track and field during the winter and has asked us if he can throw in addition to distance running. And I think that would be fine. He was hoping to throw the javelin, the indoor javelin. I want you to think about that as just from a safety perspective. But since that is not an indoor field event, he wants to throw the shot put instead. Yeah, 9-year-old shot putters. That's always an interesting thing to watch when they do that. I see almost no carryover into the actual event when I watch him do that. I'm not really that concerned with his results at this stage. Good in his life, and just want him to continually improve and remain dedicated. But is this a good idea? Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be there and have some fun, sure. It'd be interesting with his DNA. I mean, I don't know what you're like, but I would say it's a lot easier in some ways to be an elite cross-country runner than it is to be an elite shot putter, because God loves all kinds of cross-country runners physically, but there's a real prototype for throwers, and it's going to be real hard, for a 5 foot, for a guy this tall who weighs 115 pounds to be an elite shot putter. I didn't say it was impossible, and in fact, I'd like to see it happen. No, I think it's a good idea, especially at this age. It'll be fun. Give him something to do. I certainly hope he rotates and takes that seriously, because the life skills he'll learn from the delicate dance of being a rotating shot putter is good. The problem with those youth track throwers is very often it's just the big kid who does a standing throw wins, and of course they learn a terrible lesson about the throws. And very often, I mean, I've had coaches tell me they always get the big fat kids throwing. It's like, that's not who you want. You need elite athletes. And that's why the best recruiting I used to do was I would find the kids who got cut from the freshman basketball team and talk to them about being throwers. I coached at a high school where they kept 15 freshman boys on the team, on the basketball team. And of course, only 5 played at a time, and I don't know why they kept that many. And then on the seniors, so freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, the coach had a rule that unless you started as a senior, you weren't allowed to be on the team. So if you do the math, and so in a school you would have a total of 60 boys who played freshman basketball on the campus at once, and only 2, maybe 3 were on the varsity team. That's a huge washout rate in 4 years. So I used to talk to the kids who were cut and say, listen, you come out, and very often those kids were some of the best athletes in our programs when they were seniors, because they just had to hit puberty. Remember, puberty is a big deal in youth sports. I hope that helps. I don't know. We have another question. I think this one is from a guy named Dan. Okay. Dan asks, I've been doing your easy strength for fat loss for about 8 weeks now, and I'm loving it. Good. I didn't originally approach the program with the intention of losing weight, but more of a way to get the right amount of work done within my time constraints. Well, that's great. With this program, I'm still able to build strength and improve my aerobic capacity without banging my head against the wall like other workouts that shall not be named. Okay. Unlike the shiny new toy issue that some others seem to have, where they are constantly jumping from program to program, I almost feel like I can stick with programs well past the point of diminishing returns. Must be the Irish in me. What's funny is that I snatched and clean and jerk 3 days a week and did front squats 2 days a week and jerks 2 days a week for 7 years. So I'm with you, man. That being said, my question is this. While Easy Strength for Fat Loss is still the program that I intend on staying with At what point, if any, should I be put back on the shelf in order to incorporate other major movements like squatting? I know you often break up your training into seasons, but is that something you would recommend if the program is still checking off all the right boxes? Or stick to my usual, if it ain't broke, don't fix it method? So the answer is going to be a two thing. One, what you're doing is fine. I mean, if you're still making progress, and don't forget, you can certainly do the squat in the warm-up period. You can do the goblet squat in the warm-up. You can do overhead squats. I do like me. I'm adding front squats to mine, even though I'm sure they're not going to work. But hey, got to keep trying. Yes, you can stick with the program. I think there's value to it. Or you can do something more like what I kind of think you should do. I think you probably should only do 2 rounds of easy strength, especially the 40-day one. So we're talking about that's to be 80 workouts, which is, I mean, that's well over half a year. I mean, that's a lot. But then after that, just go do something else. And for you, Dan, it might be an idea just to do that extra stuff for maybe 2 to 4 weeks. So I have other programs like the transformation program, or just use the workout generator, perhaps. There's so many options, but I think if you plan a stop, and well, here's another option: don't work out, don't weightlift for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, just get back into maybe some. Your workout is just a long walk, maybe a long walk with, if there's a pull-up bar somewhere, throw in a long walk and halfway through do a hang, or if there's a park course, or even if you just did push-ups on a park bench, or just some kind of walking calisthenic combination. That might be a really good idea for you. And again, just for 2 weeks, just to kind of press the reset button on your body. So Dan, I hope that helps. That's a good question. We have a question from Vincente. How would you go about training for your first pull-up? I'm 35, 106 kilos, about 234, 1.8 meters, about 6 foot, just a little bit shy of it, and have never been able to do one. Any tips? Vincente, I've talked about this really a lot of times on this podcast, and it is kind of interesting that it comes up every so often. Yeah, I recommend 2 things. First, and this will be good for your shoulders, I recommend simply hanging. In fact, I would suggest up to a month of 3 to 5 days a week of just simple hanging. Week 1, I would do 1 long hang, and just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever works out. Just try to extend that hang a little bit. Week 2, 2 sets of hangs. Week 3, 3 sets of hangs. And week 4, 4 sets of hangs. In month 2, I would recommend the flex armed hang. And again, if you can do that, week 1, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1, 2, 3, 4, you get it. And then when you get around to month 3, you should have the grip strength and the arm strength to be able to do a pull-up. If not, I would like you to go through our materials here at Dan John University and come up with the fighter pull-up program, which I'm a big believer in. But honestly, after 2 months of hanging, if you can't do a pull-up, then there's obviously another issue. And that's something maybe we'll follow up with after you try that for 2 months. Okay, thank you. I hope that helps. We have a question from Jeffrey, spelled with a J, and let's begin. I was wondering, what are your thoughts about fasted rucking for fat loss? I like it. I was at a workshop one time where someone knocked fasted cardio, and I just kind of wanted to laugh out loud. For one thing, this person is kind of full of it, but the other thing was that this discounting of it. Oh, it doesn't work. Marty Gallagher, again, the second time I've mentioned him, he often talks about the great 80s bodybuilding where these guys just really did a lot of fasted cardio. There's caveats, Jeffrey. I will sometimes get lightheaded doing rucking, and sometimes I get lightheaded intermittent fasting, and if you're pushing those two again. Now, when I get lightheaded rucking, there's a good reason. So my traps aren't as huge as they used to be, but they still up there. So very often the the gear that I have will dig in right here, and it just feels like a Spock, Vulcan death grip. And what I notice is I have to just shrug it off and slide it down, and then so I ended up wearing them a little funny. Uh, that's the reason I get a little lightheaded, is because I'm getting that Vulcan pinch or whatever it's called. Uh, I'm experimenting with doing it 3 to 4 times a week while walking the dog on mornings where I don't do other strength work. Man, I love this idea. What are your thoughts on duration? Duration, okay, on weight, I don't like you going more than 15 kilos, 33 pounds. I just think after that it's overkill. I prefer you put weights on your ankles and your hands, like the great Steve Reeves, the bodybuilder, recommended. He called it power walking. Leonard Schwartz called that heavy hands. But I like it on my ankles and hands better because of it's more inefficient. This is actually quite efficient. I know that when I go to the military bases, guys are doing it with 80 pounds, and sometimes I just think about what's that doing to their whole spinal column and their knees, feet, and hips. But duration, it's how much time do you have? If you can go for 5 hours, go for 5 hours. If you can go for 5 minutes, go for 5 minutes. Target heart rate, it is interesting with COVID. I stopped measuring my heart rate. We went out one time, and it was hot, and I was sweating, and I had to wear a mask because one of our people has a blood cancer. So I had a mask on, I had my sunglasses on, and I had my earbuds, which is my heart rate monitor, and I just freaked out. I don't know what happened. I think I had a hard time breathing, but use Maffetone's number, 180 minus your age, as a top end. See how that goes. In fact, that'd be a real nice measurement. Don't, if it goes, if you're 40 and you're over 140, then adjust the load down until it does. I will, if you want to follow up on this, I will tell you how I use this with fat loss clients. In addition, I'm eating like an adult and drinking plenty of water. I think this is going to work out really well, Jeffrey. Really well. Thank you. Luis, I'm about to compete at my first weightlifting meet in a few weeks. What does your training schedule look like the last 2 or 3 weeks leading up to a weightlifting meet? You mentioned working up to your openers 2 weeks out. Yeah, let me just stop there. I'm starting to think at my age, 2 weeks out is too close. All it does is cause me unnecessary grief. But I'm thinking now of doing like the heavy clean and jerk 3 weeks out and the heavy snatch 2 weeks out. That's just a thought. I could be radically wrong. But and in the last week, going up to 50K on the snatch, basically, and some overhead squats, and avoid eating foods in restaurants you're not used to. Is there anything else you consider valuable for a first timer? No. Yeah, I would tell you the same thing I tell getting ready for an RKC. Be sure you're drinking your orange-flavored, sugar-free Metamucil, because you really want to make sure you have a bowel movement before you step on the platform. And I even recommend a little bit of overdosing on that. The last 2 weeks out, I like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This would be both weeks. I've discovered actually that even the day before the meet, I can go in and, like you said, 50 kilos or something like that. Just do some snatches just to make, and then now I would also do some jerks with light weights because of my shoulder issues, my jerk needs a little bit more honing. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then 2 weeks out, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 week out, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Keep the loads light, yes, but make it as technical as you can. So you snatch, you stand up, you hold it, you put the bar on the floor appropriate, wave to the fans or whatever. I would suggest actually keeping maybe like a minute, 2 minutes between those sets of singles, just to get the kind of the pacing of following yourself at a meet, which helps a lot. I always run through a shoelace check. So the Mondays of the last 2 weeks, Monday 2 weeks out and Monday 1 week out, I do a shoelace test. I tape my thumbs and I make sure I have additional thumb tape because I tape my thumbs at weightlifting meets. I put my belt on. I make sure my singlet is no tears. I put my socks, the socks I want to wear, on the platform. Kind of just a shakedown cruise. That's the phrase we used to use. So you're going to get 6 shakedown cruises in. I also suggest that you do original strength. The 6-point rock that Tim has me do. Instead of having my hands this way in the 6-point rock, I put my hands this way, so when I'm pumping this area too, not just my hips. Yeah, don't go to Bob's Day Old Sushi place. I would drink extra water as you're getting close. I've experimented with that hyperhydration on Wednesday and Thursday before a meet, and then drying out on Friday to get my weight down. All these little tricks don't work nearly as well as just keeping your effing weight down, where it's supposed to be. And then, of course, stick to the plan, which always helps me a lot. Take copious notes. In fact, right over there, I have a whole bunch of my notes from my past, and I might be worthy of me to share it with you sometime. Yeah, nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. And then one thing I really recommend you do is pack your bag on Monday before a Saturday weightlifting meet, and then repack it on Tuesday, repack it on Thursday, you can take a day off, but I like to pack my bag 5 or 6 or 7 times. Make sure my weightlifting card is in there. I make sure I have cash in there. I always have extra bottles of those. I tell you, the best thing is Pedialyte, but I always bring extra bottles of that because, as much. And the other thing is when I get nervous, I have to pee, so I have to balance the fact that I have to pee every minute and I have to drink all these fluids. Pack and buy everything you think you're going to need. Have a plan. If you're having to lose weight, have a plan for food right after you weigh in. Those are basically the things. I know this, the more I plan, the more I take care of business 2 weeks out, the better I lift on the platform. So that would be the most important thing. Thanks. That's a good question. I appreciate that. Thank you, Luis. So we have a question from Sean. Now, Sean, I've already emailed back because there's a time issue on this. Tomorrow I fly out to Tokyo to cover my 5th Olympics. I'm hugely fortunate. Yeah, man. I know, but this time around things will be very different. We'll have a hard quarantine where we have to stay in our hotel rooms for 3 days and then another 11 days in the bubble. Between our hotels, buses, and venues, where we're not allowed to go anywhere. That includes walking outside. With the hotel gym also closed, this presents a few challenges, particularly when it comes to exercise. Usually my plan for the Olympics is simple. I swim, run, and do body weight exercises at the Olympics for the first couple of weeks to keep ticking over and for stress release. Walk around everywhere with the heavy rucksack, and then when the track and field program kicks in and I'm doing 14-hour days, just hang on. I love that. I think that's great. Without those options, what would you advise? I bring a TRX, but I'm not sure my hotel room will be big enough to use. Yeah, if you use a TRX, double check that door frame. I tell you what I do on the road trip is I always bring my Brett Contreras glute loop. Now, gentle listeners, I also have contacted him, gave him very specific advice, but let's just talk generally. When I travel, I always travel with a Brett Contreras glute loop. This last weekend, when I got off the plane, I went to my hotel room and I undid the damage of my flight by getting on my back, putting the glute loop around, and I did 15 hip thrusts, 15 clamshells, 14 hip thrusts, 14 clamshells, 13, 13, 12, 12, 11, 10, 10, 10, and all the way down. That's my secret for undoing damage. I like hip thrusts. I like clamshells. If you put it around your knees and you can do monster walks, that's going to take care. Oh, and you can also do, I think they're called prisoner squats, but hands-free goblet squats. You put the knee band around your knees, you push your knee out as hard as you can. When I do these, I like to hold on to a doorknob or something like this so I can kind of water ski the position. So I'm pushing my knees out and get some squats in. boy, one time I did, it's called the stop and pop, which is it's a kettlebell swing movement with no weight. And at the top of every one, you squeeze your hands together, you slap your thighs and pause in the hinge position. And I did, I did 20 stop and pops, 20 goblet squats, 19, 19, 18, 18. And that was one of the hardest workouts I've done in my life. And I don't remember why I worked so hard on that particular trip. I must have been scolding myself for something. Obviously, the push-up, press-up in Sean's case, because he's British, is very valuable. And then, of course, if you can hook up the TRX, do your stuff there. But I would strongly suggest playing around with hip thrust, clamshell, press-up, push-up, that kind of thing. If the place is well built, anything you can do with marching in place is very valuable. And I like this whole, we used to call them, was it the Tai Chi stretches or the Ki stretches or something, where it was a series of, I'm sitting on the floor and I stretch my hamstrings this way. I go wide leg, stretch my hamstring, and then come forward again. And then I go to my left leg and the wide leg, and then I go to my right leg and the wide leg. And then I get in the children's pose and then sit back. So you're doing, you're doing a lot of hamstring and then quad stretches. I always found that to be a nice little tonic on road trips. I don't, in all candor, I don't do it anymore because I get more out of the hip thrust and clamshells than I do out of the stretching. So you have an email in your box, Sean, and for the rest of you, there's just some ideas. Thank you. We have a question from John. This is an interesting question. What do you think of the benefits of real yoga? I know there are various types of yoga, power, yin, vinyasa, and classes that purport to be yoga, but are just some circuit training. You study religion. When I say real yoga, I mean treating the body as a temple, the getting into movement and the sensations of the body, proprioception, maybe. There are obviously weird motions that go outside the traditional planes of motion associated with training. Do you see value in this only three-dimensional movement, but also the inner focus appreciation of the body? I put that appreciation lead to better recovery. Okay, Joe. Yes, yoga means yoke. Yoke, it's the same root as religion. Religios, to bind, or to connect back. I don't like it when people say bind because that's just a stupid. Ligaments have the same root as religion. So yeah, I used to teach yoga in an academic setting, and one of the things I would try to teach my students, that there is a yoga of work, which I strive to do every single time. It was to be fully present when I taught. And I would tell my students that my best teaching is a moment of yoga. In the Western tradition, we talk about this, that I am not body and mind. I am body, mind, soul, and spirit, all connected. And my best teaching is when, and it's funny because the yoga tradition and the traditional Western tradition come down the same on so many of these principles. My best teaching was when I was one. And the same way, when you're in relationship, if you're all there, I think all of us know, everybody who has older children, and when your children have children, there's that moment where you just want to take your kid aside and shake them, and your child, and say, enjoy every minute of them being a baby. Enjoy every minute of them being a toddler or a kindergartner or a first grader, because you're going to blink your eyes and it's all going to be over. And that happened to me, Got little Leo, Danny, and Josephine, my grandchildren, and I just, I just remember my daughters at that age. And so for me, as a parent, that's parent yoga, being fully there. When your child is telling you some story about what happened at school, and it's the most boring story and the worst storytelling, you've ever seen in your life. You got to be there. This is important times. So that would be the yoga of work, and yeah, I'm a big believer in it. You don't have to go into any the yoga postures. And by the way, what most Americans consider yoga is truly only 120 years old at best. It's an invented thing that was a selling point, and of course we know what a shyster, one of the more famous yoga people was. I remember being at one of these studios, and the woman says to me, "Our founder got an Olympics at the medal in weightlifting." And I went, "No, he didn't." He goes, "No, at the '64 Olympics, he did." No, I know my weightlifting. I know who Louis Reiki and Bill March is. I know the '64 Olympics. I know who Tommy Kono is, and Norm Shamatsky and that. Oh no, he did. And I'm like, this is the modern age. I can Google that right now. Yeah. So a lot of yoga has become very hucksterist, very shysterist. But the great tradition of the idea that when you're doing it, that you're totally connected, that's what I would strive for you to kind of keep an eye on. So yes, I'm with you 100% on that. Thank you. Good question. All right, we got a question from Noah. Noah, as far as in-season training goes, what's your take on his idea of doing the 3 power lifts, each one for his idea must be Marty Gallagher, each one for a max top set at a prescribed rep range on one day, and then spending the rest of the week recovering or practicing your sport? If you're talking, okay, it's funny because we had that earlier question with the either or, and you're trying to, Noah, get me into an either or situation. I'm not going to do that. Easy strength involves frequent strength practice throughout the week, and that makes sense for me as an in-season athlete. If one was really crunched for train days or weight room availability, do you think that training one day a week would be useful for an athlete, provided you trained as hard as possible on that day? Could you apply this exercises other than the power lifts? No, I'm going to tell you something about one of my heroes, the late great Glenn Passy, who, if you come to my gym, he's on my Hall of Fame. I love the man. I'm going to one up you. He was told that you as an elite thrower, you should be able to clean and press your body weight, snatch your body weight, and clean and jerk about 20 pounds more. So what he did was this. He got up to those numbers and he stopped lifting. And he would come in every couple of weeks to test his strength on the clean and press, snatch, and clean and jerk. And if he didn't get body weight and the plus 20 on the jerk, he trained for a couple of days until he did. And then he stopped lifting again. So according to Glenn, when he told me this, there would be months where, because of his, his background. Now don't forget, he was also famous for being, so in the summers, he spent all summer throwing 40-pound hay bales up in the air and doing farmer walks. So his off-season training was farmer walks and throwing 40-pound hay bales. By the way, this is still good advice. And then when he got done off the farm and he showed up at Utah State, he went in the weight room and had press, snatch, clean and jerk until he got his numbers up, stopped lifting and focused on throwing the discus and the shot a little bit, tested himself every so often. As long as his numbers were up there, he kept at it. He was a national champion in the discus and threw as far as I did in college, whereas I weighed 231 pounds, 105 kilos. He weighed 178 pounds, about 80 kilos. So he's right and I'm wrong. So yeah, I think if you tried the Marty Gallagher idea, I wouldn't do it on the Olympic year. But you might want to try that out and just see, hey, if I can lift one day a week and get the work done, what the hell am I doing the rest of the time? Now, the easy strength approach, as I teach it with those 15 to 20 minute workouts, and when I tell people they're 15-minute workouts and all I get is, my God, this workout takes me an hour, then you're not doing it right. That worked for me with the way my brain and my psychosis worked. I'm sure Glenn Passy would look at that Marty Gallagher program and say, sign me up. So a lot of it depends on what kind of engine you have. Not necessarily this engine, but this is engine. I love the idea, Marty. That Marty comes up with, Noah. So, I mean, if you want to try it, as Captain Picard says, make it so. I hope that helped. It is a strange question, and because we're so afraid to experiment, people aren't out there trying to figure this out for themselves. I love the idea with trying this out. If you have an easy preseason that you can mess with, an indoor season that's not very important to you, or early Highland Games season, or early whatever, try it maybe for a month. Lift on Sunday, compete on Saturday, and see how it goes. So lift on Sunday, compete on Saturday. Practice your events, compete on Saturday. Lift on Sunday, practice your events, compete, and see how that goes. Problem is, it might work really, really, really well, and you'll be like, God, I wasted my time for a long time. Great questions. Hey, folks, that's it. This is like the third or fourth episode in a row where I really enjoyed answering the questions. Thank you so much, gentle readers and listeners. I appreciate that. As you know, I strive to answer each and every question you have. And if you have a question, remember, podcast at danjohnuniversity.com, and I'll do my best to answer each and every one. And until next week, let's all just keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.